All right, welcome back. Welcome back, everybody, to ITUTv podcast. I'm your host, the ITU professor, man. We are back with Michael Franz today. Thank you, my brother, for stepping in.
Oh, glad to be here. Sorry, I was taking a little bit of a bite right there. It's lunchtime.
It's all
I ate
good,
on the
man.
charts today, and bro, gold.
Killed it.
No, not just that. You should see it right now.
Killer gold trade this morning, man, guys. And we're actively watching gold selling off into some nice lows that might set up really nice for the rest of this week. And Mike, been on point all day, guys. All day. All day.
It's clear, man. Like with all the world things going on, this is exactly why. This is exactly why I pay attention to the news, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when things like this happen and all the volatility comes in, I know how to react to it, and I can understand. Like there's people that'll disagree with my views, but not understand that my views are financially based. You know what I mean?
That's it.
And when we've always said, you follow the charts, you get your answers. You follow the money, you get your answers, right? And it's exactly what's happening right now. And although gold is very bullish on a very, very low time frame, I'm talking like the 1 to 5 minutes. It's it's filling in the imbalance from this morning. We had crazy moves this morning. So yeah, these world events, buckle up because we could be in this for a couple of months here.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Things are going to get shaken up. I've said it before. I say it again. Even if you're looking at cryptos, they will be affected by what we have going on overseas. So just prepare yourself. We see some huge drops. Like for me, it was all about, if the war didn't happen, we might see some progression forward up on crypto. But as we can see with the war's effects, we're starting to see, things start to trickle down. Just looking at XRP, looking at Bitcoin. So hopefully things start to turn around for them and things go in the right direction. But Iran, right? Is Iran, which one? One retaliated today.
Iran.
Iran. Okay, so that's going to bring some up and downs in the markets. We saw US 30 Nas straight shoot down, shoot up like 2-3 times today. So man, interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, and I think what we need to do is touch on that type of a topic too for any traders that are like, when do I trade the news? How do I trade the news type situations, right? It was very interesting today that we had everything that happened over the weekend, right? I hope you don't mind, but I'm just kind of gonna get into the shit. You know what I mean? Shout out Kevin Hart. So let's kind of go over this because it's very important since everybody wants to trade indices. But as far as the execution, it's challenging sometimes. So we had the bombings. We attacked Iran over the weekend, and we all know that the market does not open. It's not open over the weekend, right? So we saw on the opening, because of everything, we saw the gap on the way down. Then we saw it pull back up today. And although we didn't see really anything until late this morning, it was only 8:30 p.m. over in Qatar, but Iran actually sent 10 missiles over to our air bases that are over there. I do want to get into the strategy for this too as well, because I want people to understand how this could play out and a different side from the CNNs and MSNBCs, right? So they sent the 10 missiles. Why? Why only 10 compared to 200 to Israel, right? Or whatever it may be, right? They shot off 200 at one time to Israel. So why did they just not try and take out one of our bases at all? Well, when you think about it, if you come at me with one and I come at you with two, what are you going to do? You're going to come at me with three, right?
Mm-hmm.
And right now, war has not actually been officially declared. This is just a conflict right now, but it affects the market nonetheless, period. So 10 missiles were sent. They were all intercepted. Nobody hurt. None of them landed. They were all intercepted.
Good to hear.
But what you would expect from the market is the fact that, okay, if we bombed Iran and these guys are trying to bomb us right now, or I'm not going to say bomb anymore, it's actually attack us with missiles, right? There's different kinds. You would expect that there would be a massive sell-off in the US 30, SPX, and NAS. What happened today? None of that. It actually went up. Why?
Right.
Why? There's two things that are going on. This stuff that's happening overseas, which is a distraction. It's a distraction from a bigger topic we're going to talk about here in a minute as to what is driving all of this. And of course, what I'm going to give is just my side of what I see, what I read, my interpretation. Take it how you want when we go over it. But regardless, that's the distraction from this morning. What people don't understand, though, is that since it's just a conflict, there's not a lot of investor worry right now. So then what then takes place? Actual foreign exchange news or just government news, period. And what happened today? PMI news. PMI, Product Manufacturing Index, right? What ended up happening with that, Zay? Did you see what happened with PMI today?
I did not.
It went up. It was bullish. Why? Because there's more production in the U.S. right now than what there was before. Why? Thank the tariffs for that, guys. Understand these things. Yes, you're going to see some prices going up in the grocery stores or whatever it may be. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. But long term, stuff is going to benefit. So when we have a manufacturing index, which is the measure of productivity outside of GDP. GDP is the overall productivity of everything, right? That goes on in the US. But actually, product manufacturing itself, as long as that's going up, that's people working. That's products being made for distribution, etc. And it's done right here. So it was bullish. And not only it equaled last month's, but they expected it to go down because some of the tariffs that had been pushed back until August. So in this case, there was an expectation or a forecast that it was actually going to go down. It stayed the same. So all of a sudden, boom, we still have great manufacturing going on. What does that do for your stocks? It sends them up. So the actual attacks will have some impact, but I want people to kind of look when those are done compared to when news is read. Right? When news topics come out. News topics come out. You can always go to Forex Factory, tells you the exact time. So there's no variable in that sense as to like what can be adjusted on that side. The variable that needs to be watched is when things happen, when the decisions are made to attack each other, right? Now, this isn't just literally saying, oh, Iran attacked us because the news had already been read and we probably needed a pullback. We could say that, but they don't care about our economy, right? Technically, they don't care about our economy. I think that there's a little bit of interest because when you have all these country agreements, these imports and exports, yes, they do care in that sense. But overall, Iran's on the defense. So they're not going to sit there and say, oh, hey, I'm just going to wait till this news is read. But it is ironic that you see that kind of play out within the chart sometimes. You'll see the bullish move go up because news is read, and then all of a sudden we have an attack and it starts coming down, or something randomly happens. We've talked about this multiple times over the span of 6 years, specifically during Trump's tweeting years, right? The first term.
Yeah, good times.
Right? It was all timed, guys. It's all timed, right? So I think that the other thing is that home sales are starting to rise a little bit.
Okay.
And why is that happening? Because there is so overabundance. I was actually talking to Alex the other day, asking him about what he sees on the market. He said there's an absolute flood of homes that are not selling, but it gives the buyers all the power in the world right now because there's such a supply and low demand that homeowners are cutting prices left and right just to get rid. Just to get rid of it, right? So when you have those things that are like right now, manufacturing, people can spend money and buy homes. Things are looking kind of good. So why wouldn't stocks go up today?
Right. So, and I'm sure many traders came in today expecting with, what we heard throughout the weekend to set up for those sell opportunities only to get ripped against because it's not as major as, it came off, from the beginning. So traders are starting to look at it as, wow, could this be a potential turnaround? Are we going into, an accumulation, or are we still thinking, more war tensions are going to come about that could push the market down? Or is it a better time, right, to just be scalping this market, finding those opportunities and getting out quick until a real decision is made? What are your thoughts on that?
So being that trading futures now, just a heads up, bro, my TP just got hit. If I would have traded that, I know it was at the end of the day. So just so you guys know the background of what we're talking about here, it was 12:30 my time. Market for futures closes at like 1:10 my time. So I had 40 minutes and I was sitting here. I'm like, hey, we're just on here. I'm going to watch the charts. I feel like scalping a little bit. I told Zay, I said, talk me out of this. Talk me out of this. We marked it up, looking at it.
Mind you, I didn't. Mind you, I did not talk you out of it.
No. You didn't. You didn't. I just chose not to because what it was looking like is that it was going to end up possibly going up because there was looked like a low key type ascending triangle for a small push up, and I wasn't going to sit there and sell for 40 minutes if it was going to continue going up and be a drawdown. That's just stupid. So I let it go. I didn't take it, but had I entered, I would have been in zero drawdown and it would have hit my take profit right now. So we do have a little bit of a pullback. On the bigger picture, it's a bullish move. I'm still buying on gold, but I don't necessarily see a problem with scalping unless you can see the big moves, right? Look for the higher time frames, the big patterns, right? So what we're seeing on gold is just a massive wedge that's widening. It's spreading out right now. So, and there's a large bullish wick that needs to be filled. So once that wick gets filled, we'll see what happens, but that's going to create an all-time new high for gold. So I am buying on gold right now, specifically also on the other side, the news side. Gold is a safe haven currency, guys. When things happen like war, you're going to see gold actually become bullish because currencies for other countries are going to become possibly weaker. We all know what happens with DXY when war happens, right? It goes bullish. We make money off of war. We profit off of that. Our dollar becomes stronger. So we'll get to this in a second. I'll show you guys, like we're hitting a support line, and I think that we're going to see a little bit of a bullish move for DXY, which is, it might be what we're seeing now with the adverse effect on gold actually coming down. But big picture, I can still see DXY coming down if war doesn't happen. Right? If war happens, I will expect that DXY and gold will actually move the same way for a little while, and we'll start seeing a drop in stocks. So with that expectation and seeing, like, just thinking about the emotional connection to money, people want to be safe with what they have. They will actually turn it around and invest in gold rather than stocks. So there you go.
Yeah. And if these tensions continue, guys, remember, even in certain stock areas where we'll see falls, there's also money in the companies that, put in those weapons, right? That manufacture a lot of those weapons that are used over there. And in the current time frames we're in, we are using different sets of weapons. Who knows what they're using as far as technologically with advances are concerned. So do your research, right? Check and see what companies supply the United States or some of these countries, with what they're using. They're always going to need more and more supply of that through the war, for bullets or anything that is necessary. It's definitely smart to consider looking in that direction as you're adjusting maybe your stock portfolio or whatever during this time. Now, before we get into the gritty of things, I do want to share this clip real quick, and this is going to segue us into a lot of other things that we wanted to be smart about taking advantage of in these markets, okay, and understanding who's benefiting, who's not benefiting, and where that line is laid. So one real quick, we'll be right back.
The US actually wants the Strait of Hormuz to be blocked. Sounds crazy, right? If Iran blocks the strait, who gets hurt the most? China and Europe. Let's start with Europe. Before the war in Ukraine, Europe relied heavily on cheap oil and gas from Russia. But after sanctions, it was forced to shift toward the US and the Middle East. Today, around 18% of Europe's oil and 15% of its LNG comes through the Strait of Hormuz. If the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, Europe is in trouble. No Russia, no Middle East. Only one option left for Europe is the USA. Now let's look at China. Nearly 50% of its oil and 12% of its LNG flows through the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, a blockade would hurt China, but China still has Russia, pipelines, land routes, and long-term deals. So ask yourself, if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, who suffers more? China, temporarily. Europe, completely. That's exactly what the US wants, because the day that Strait is blocked, Europe won't just lose oil. It might lose its independence. It will be fully dependent on the USA.
Man, oh man. So, oil, Mike, I had to share that one with you. I got to get your feedback on that, man, because this is setting the game for what we're really possibly looking at here of being able to take advantage of as far as if we're going to be trading through this, if we're going to benefit from what's happening overseas. What's your thoughts, man?
So we were just literally talking about this offline, but what this whole thing is becoming, and it's all over oil, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was having this conversation this morning, and just playing this out, I don't know, it's so, like, from my perspective and what I'm seeing, it's so clear to me, and I'll be interested to see if what I see plays out the way that it does. But the clarity for it is just asinine. It's crazy because so much has happened, right? We have people that are complaining about the change of the Gulf of Mexico, right? We do understand why the Gulf of Mexico was changed to Gulf of America. Should I go over that real quick?
For viewers, I think for sure. For our listeners.
All right. So, and I specifically want, it's funny, I'm gonna say this, but I might say it with a grain of salt. I want liberal individuals to actually think about this from the outside looking in. Take away, I'm talking about the hardcore liberals, right? The ones that sit here and complaining about the Gulf of America and Gulf of Mexico name. So the Gulf of Mexico was changed because if you look from the lines of property ownership, there's a portion of it that actually should have been belonged to the United States of America this whole time, right? And what is off the coast of that Gulf? Oil. It's a great area for oil. So it was so good that Biden went to go ask to drill. You guys can research this. Biden actually attempted to try and get drilling going because he shut down the Keystone pipeline at the beginning, and he saw that we went up to $6 a gallon in gas, some $7 in California, whatever it may be, right? He saw what happened. People are complaining. And so he went to Mexico and was like, hey, I need to drill in the Gulf of Mexico. By the way, he had to do that because it was the Gulf of Mexico. It was theirs. So even though part of it is it would fall under our land. So they said no. We suffered through high gas prices for a long time, right? Now, I'm not saying that's the sole reason, but it is an event that did take place that has a significant meaning to it. Kind of like how we were talking about the eggs. Okay, election happens. Trump takes office January 16th, right? And what was the first complaint from all the people in the nation? Egg prices are so high. Egg prices are so high. Who were liberals blaming, Zay? Trump. They were blaming Trump.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. They're laying that on Trump's time.
But what people fail to understand is that just in December, Biden had 100 million chickens killed.
Welcome to Independent Trading University at ITU. We're more than just an education platform. We're a community built to help you succeed. Trading can feel like a solo journey, but with ITU, you're never alone. Our team is here to support, guide, and push you toward mastery. Technical analysis support, so you can read the charts with precision. Fundamental support, so you understand market-moving news and economics. Psychology support, so you can develop the mindset of a successful trader. We provide the tools you need to thrive, weekly live education, 24/7 community support, and real-time trading setups from experienced coaches. Wherever you are, access the education and mentorship that will transform your trading. Join ITU today and trade with confidence.
Right, and we talked about that.
Right. So this is what I'm saying is like some of these attempts, like these are the actions for me that I'm like, if you guys aren't willing to step up and literally say, hey, you know what? Don't blame this guy. We had to do this because there was a legit reason for it. And being transparent is something that our government is very hard at doing, but accountability is also very hard at the same time.
Right.
They would have rather let this man look like a fool than to have people understand and calm down and say, look, we had to do this because of the bird flu breakout. Right?
They're giving half the story. They only let half of the story go out to push that anger and that hostility in Trump's direction, right?
Exactly. But see, this is why we're such a divided nation. It starts at the top and it works to the bottom. If these guys would work together rather than trying to make each other look so badly, things could be a lot different. So that's just my point, my quick little point on possible peace or coming to an agreement on what happens between Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives, whatever you want to talk about, right? So that division it would allow us to come together if transparency were to happen. They don't want that. Divide is to conquer. So keep that in mind, guys. So I digress on those situations, but regardless, this man comes in, he renames the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which now we have the opportunity to start going and drilling on our property of the land, right?
Yep.
If he does that, guess what that does? That increases our supply, period. Do you know what happened back in March as well, Zay? I think we talked about it, but very, very, very briefly.
Run it back to me. It was short.
All those protected lands that have oil underneath it, he removed the protections for those lands.
In Gulf of Mexico.
No, not just Gulf of Mexico, in the United States. This is all part of the drill baby drill thing. He's looking to create a massive supply. And it's like, who's going to benefit from the massive supply? Well, we are, for one, because we will have the oil here. We don't have to pay the import price. We'll create our own. Like, at that point, you're going to start seeing it. Oh my God, gold. You're going to start seeing people that are going to start making even a lot more money off of the oil. And we're going to actually be able to pay a lot lower of a cost because it's going to be here and the supply is going to be here. If you eliminate the import cost, you can lower the cost overall to the consumer. That's economics, right? If my prices go down, guess what? Your prices go down. So with that being said, what I feel like there's a little bit of a poking of the bear here. I will be accountable on that side. And I believe that Donald Trump strategically is kind of playing people a little bit. I think that he allowed the escalation of the Israel-Iran conflict portion to get to where it's at and get us to a position, because our military is the strongest in the world, right? Let's get these things going, because look at the result. The Strait of Hormuz is actually being talked about being blocked now. What would that do? Like you just saw in the video, it would force Europe to rely on the U.S. Now we're exporting oil that we're exuding from our land, right? And now we can become one of these areas that has a ton of oil supply. We become an oil supplier at that point. Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, right? Look at these guys that are out there. Come on now, let's be real.
Oh, it's a big power move. Big power move.
Right. Absolutely. So I can see where this is all playing out, literally because of oil, to put the U.S. in a bigger distribution opportunity, which is, I mean, When I was talking about this, so I was doing a basketball podcast yesterday morning, early morning, right? My two guys that I go on with, before we went live, they were talking about the attacks, and they're like, "Oh, this didn't need to happen, this, that, and the other." And I was like, "Guys, this needs to happen. What are you talking about? Like, you have to understand why these things need to happen." Is if you, I said, I read financial charts all the time, and I can get you answers for whatever's happening and show you how things are dividing people based upon what they're seeing on TV. I said, yes, this needs to happen. They were like, oh, so you're for the war? And I said, let's get this straight. It's bittersweet. I'm not for war, but sometimes things need to happen, and things need to, what is it? It's always darker before it gets brighter.
Right.
It's always darkest before the light, right?
Yep.
So in that case, we're in that dark time.
Right.
We're in that dark time. But get our tariffs in place where we don't have to rely on these other countries, or these other countries are actually going to pay us what they owe us, right? There's that. Budget cuts. There's that. Oil now being a distributor. So, yeah. I think it all ties together, to be honest with you. I really do.
For sure. It's important people don't just go with what you see on TV. Don't just go what you see on the news. Like, you've got to do your own research. You've got to see how these things connect. I mean, it really helps in our side with being able to understand these markets, understand the financial and economic aspect of things on top of the geopolitical, because it is hand in hand. It is one for one. And, you know, yeah, they're trying to make it seem like, oh, you know, we're just at random wars, at random times, for random reasons, that, you know, people are just dying aimlessly, right? They're just dying for money. There are a lot of aspects as far as control and power that still happen, because if we do just let things go away, we do have the combat of China, we do have, you know, Iran, we have them. If they retaliate, we do need to protect, you know, what we have, and just as well expand our network, expand our connections, expand our power. You know, if we want, you know, don't get it twisted. A lot of people are just sitting at home stateside of America, cozy by the fireplace, complaining. You know what I mean? So let's be smart about this and do a little more research than that is of what the news gives us. Because again, that's still the power of keeping us divided as a nation as well. There is a power play in that. So let's be smart.
I agree. That's why I'm curious to see how this all plays out. Are we even going to go to actual war? Like, let's not get it twisted. This is, like I said, this is just a conflict. Until you actually declare a war, it's not a war. It's not a war. Even though casualties may have been had already, it's still not a war. Because what I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zay, but you declare war. Okay, we're in an actual war. That thing cannot end until there's an official resolution. Right? There has to be a treaty involved, some form of peace agreement involved. But until that happens, you continue to fight. But nobody really wants to get to that point. They just want to flex their muscles and say, hey, I want something, right?
Right.
I want you to leave me alone. I want this product. I want this. I want that, right?
Right.
It's decided to do any of this based upon, or in this case, what we have Israel involved. Like, you have religious wars, right? Where my beliefs are better than yours, or your beliefs are not as, whatever, right? You've got these different things that can drive these conflicts, but right now it's only a conflict. There may be no expectation of war. Why? Because I was literally just watching this where they were talking about the opportunity for war not to actually happen would be because of the fact that the U.S., again, we have the strongest military, right? People have to be aware of what we have involved. But I think that with some of these things that are in place, before war is even declared, you have to get all your ducks in a row. Meaning, if Iran and U.S. are going to go to war, like, it would be more beneficial if the U.S. called it right now, because right now Iran is alone. Iran is alone. They don't have Russia. They don't have China yet, but those countries are possibly there, right? But
Right.
what has to happen? What do you do when you're about to go get in a fight? Yo, you go get all your boys, right? Think of this. Think of a small thing that you would
Small
do,
conflict.
right?
At a
I'm gonna
grand
go
scale.
ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and square up with somebody at an after school brawl, but I'm gonna have 3 of my boys behind me just in case they bring 3 or 4 of their boys. You know what I'm saying? That's typical. That's typical. Look at the grand scale, right? Grand scale is a war. I need to have all my ducks in a row. We have a strong enough military to survive on our own. Iran, they're losing to Israel, which Israel, bro, the size of New Jersey.
Yep.
So you're telling me New Jersey is beating a whole country? Oh, Iran needs some help, let me tell you. Which means now I want to throw this back. I don't know if you can ever find this clip again, but at one point we talked about war, and I said, watch, Xi and Putin are going to work together. And then what is the dark horse in all of it? North Korea. Guess who's working together right now? Xi and Putin. They're talking about coming together. Yeah. In case a World War III does happen, right? And think about it. That could then bring in, when it affects the economies, just like if the Hormuz Strait gets blocked, you just saw it. China and Russia are going to be affected because that's their way to get oil to Europe.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yo, what are we doing here? Like, it's clear. So they have a vested interest to work together to get this because they're gonna to get this to stay as it is right now rather than switch to the U.S. because their economies are going to be affected. Let's be honest. So if they're
not looking at it at stopping, like it said in the video, right? If that cut happens, they're looking, here's how we're going to make up on the back end for that, rather than go in and try to fight to stop
it. Yeah, they're not gonna look to because the benefactor of all that would be the U.S. Right? Oh, like, I mean, this is literally business to business competition right now. This is what's funny. This is McDonald's versus Burger King across the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy to me. And this, I smile. And like I said, I told this to the person I was talking to this morning. Like, this is completely bittersweet because I see so much good happening over here with this situation going on. But there's going to have to be the sacrifice of some lives. Unfortunately, that's what happens in conflicts and in war, right? So, you know, right now with U.S. being the biggest benefactor, it makes a lot of sense for China and Russia to team together and help out Iran, which they're saying, I was reading as well, that I can't necessarily believe it because there's a lot of Iranian news coming out saying that they're winning this whole thing, and they're not. But they came out and claimed that other countries are willing to give them their nuclear weapons to be able to attack if need be. Where are those nuclear weapons going to come from? Probably Russia or China.
Right, because they're and this isn't anything new. Like, this goes back years back. Every time they get close to getting nuclear progression, they end up getting it destroyed, right? Or something happens, right? This is the norm, and the benefits the United States gathers always exists there. So yeah, they always will have to use somebody else of a bigger power to access nuclear weapons.
Right, and that's the whole thing. And so right now, this is literally the time to say, all right, I'm going to go in this fight. I need you. If I'm going to go in this fight, I need you. Right. So the irony to all of this, though, is that who does the U.S. support? Europe. We support them with our military, right?
No.
We could technically own Europe from top to bottom.
Bruh, when I came to that realization, I was like, this is going to be one heck of a flip right here, man. One heck of a flip.
Because what Europe originally owned,
right,
U.S. 13 colonies, right? Let's talk about that. So
how the world goes around, bro.
Now all of a sudden we do a 180, right? And by the way, gold is still going down.
I mean, plummeting. I'm out of my positions already. Plummeting.
So if we they don't really help us at all. When France has never really been there to help us through any conflict. They've given us bodies, but that's about it. Their military is not that strong, right? Let's be honest. So at that point, it's just strength in numbers when you have multiple people that can actually support you. Now it's just a big crowd, right? But if our military is, if we support them with our military like they support us, so we got the military locked down, we've got their imports and exports with oil at that point, every domino is going to fall for us to actually, I don't want to say own Europe, but economically we will. Economically, we definitely will.
For sure. For sure.
But yet,
And
here's the
then,
funny thing is all these distractions that you see of these no kings protests, this, that, and the other, when really, if you break it down and look to the deepest, I'm not even going to say the deepest level, just start looking past what you see off of TV. And I can't say that enough. We've said it for years. Do your own research. Look at these type of things. Think to yourself, because everything that happens on the small scale happens on a grand scale, right?
Right.
I was actually a whole different side story here, whatever. I was talking actually with my mother about military, or not military, Congress, right? Because what we were talking about was how Donald Trump attacked Iran without Congress's approval. And the thing was, is I said, look, Congress is Congress, right? Congress is there for a reason. I said, but what I consider Congress is to be is like, if you're working in a business, all Congress is HR. That's all it is. Now, is HR there for you, or is it there to protect the business? It's there to protect the business. They don't give a shit about you. Let's be honest. Anybody who's ever taken a case to HR at your job has been in a bad position, because even if you win the case, you lose your job because they don't want you causing trouble. You're a troublemaker at that point, right? So, by the way, in the topics of that as well, let's not forget that Obama and Biden both had they both set attacks. Biden on Yemen, unapproved by Congress. Any of the attacks that Obama had back in 2012, I think it was, none of them. And there were multiple. There was no war, but we attacked. I want to believe that was around the 0 Dark 30 time when we got Osama bin Laden, right? So they say we got Osama bin Laden. Who knows? But any of the attacks that were going on around that time, none of them were Congress approved. So let's not sit here and point fingers. And I'm not here to support Trump 100%. What I'm here talking about is look to the other side and get rid of that hate. Understand a little more. You don't have to like him. You don't have to have him as your president. Well, you have to have him as your president, but you can choose to not support him. I don't care. But stop creating the narrative and the rhetoric that this guy is actually bad for this country. It's fucking stupid. When all he's going to do is make us so economically strong, it's going to be crazy.
And that's what we need right now, guys. You've got to focus in. Let's take the light off of Trump and more on what is he setting up for us to take advantage of, whereas we weren't in position many years ago. And even if you are a lower class, middle class citizen, you'll be able to utilize these things. You'll be able to put yourself in a different position, because here's the thing, at the end of the day, the future is going to come and we're going to see a lot of job loss. We're going to see a lot of automation, and you're going to want to be in the position to be financially and economically well off during that time. It's inevitable at this point. So you need to focus in. That you get hurt your little feelings on what Trump does, so on and so forth. Okay, so be it. But nonetheless, he's putting us in a great position to bring in some paper to protect ourselves in the future, to be able to survive and sustain later on.
See, I think it takes a lot of intelligence as well. Like, I don't know. I run a small business. I run a food truck, and when I say small business, it's 2 employees. It's me and my wife, right? But it doesn't matter when you're encountering the same problems as other companies, whether they have 100 employees, 1,000 employees, or whatever. It
Yep.
doesn't matter. Business is business.
Overhead.
To sit here and be willing to try and turn this whole country around into an economic juggernaut it takes a lot. Like I'm not gonna say he's the smartest man in the world, but when you're in the room with him, he's probably the smartest businessman in that whole room, period.
Yeah. And look at what we're competing with. Even if you're looking at, the future aspect of things, we're not even the powerhouse of technology. But we've got to compete at that level to stay ahead.
Right.
So it would behoove us to have economic strength and technological strength. And he's pushing heavily in those sectors.
Yeah, I mean the portion of the technology part, the AI, right? What did he do from that standpoint? It's only federal controlled. No states have any control. He is not allowing states to control AI because it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous this early in the stage. But I'm not so sure I'm sold on because it's dangerous. I'm more sold on the fact that there's more opportunity financially and he doesn't want. So that's the other side to it, right? So not everything that is good is going to stay good. Everything you have, I don't care what it is. You can even take yourself. Take yourself as an evaluation. Everything has a pro and a con. Nobody is perfect. So is there a financial gain by not letting the states have any control of any AI? Absolutely.
I have something truly special to share with you today. Have you ever dreamt of financial success and didn't know where to start? Look no further than Independent Trading University. At ITU, we offer a diverse range of courses, from Forex basics to advanced technicals, along with comprehensive fundamentals education, mindset coaching, health and wellness guidance, plus stock and crypto trading strategies. That's right. Everything you need for a well-rounded trading journey, all in one place. Our mission is clear, helping you make extra income by learning the art of trading. Join us today at solo.to/independent-trading-guru and take advantage of an exclusive pre-sale. $50 for undergrad students looking to trade part-time, and just $75 for career traders ready to dive in full-time. With ITU, you'll master the art of making consistent income from the markets. This is your chance to start building a brighter financial future. Are you ready to transform your trading game and take control of your financial future? Look no further than Independent Trading University, your one-stop destination for comprehensive Forex education and so much more. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced trader, we've got you covered. We believe in a holistic approach to trading success. Gain a deep understanding of market fundamentals, master your mindset, and prioritize your well-being. We're here to support your growth every step of the way. And let's not forget about stocks and crypto. Discover exciting opportunities and learn strategies to make extra income. The best part? We're running a limited time pre-sale for new students. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to gain the skills, knowledge, and support you need to succeed. Ready to make connections with your financial future? Visit our website at solo.to/independent-trading-guru to secure your spot in our pre-sale today. Independent Trading University, where trading dreams become reality. It's time to start your journey to financial freedom. Don't wait. Visit solo.to/independent-trading-guru now.
But at the same time, is it still dangerous to get it out there and just hit the public with it? It's very dangerous.
That's a lot to ask for the beginning.
Very dangerous. We're sitting here having phone conversations with an AI, not realizing it's not an individual on the other side of the damn phone. It's crazy. I could not believe this. I think this I got to think how I got to word this. I want to say this is very liberal, right? It's very liberal. Everybody is concerned these days with what? Mental health, right? So you can literally have a conversation, almost like a therapy session with Google now.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. That is weird. So you're going to sit there and have a conversation with Google, which A, takes you away from public interaction. B, divides us even more because now you've got people that are only going to only feel comfortable for talking to Google because it's not going to actually judge you, right? It's a device. So you have division. But also at the same time, how many times have we said these phones are recording everything that you're saying? So if you say, hey, Gemini to Google, and Gemini comes up and starts talking, and you have this conversation, you might feel so comfortable you're going to divulge some information that you do not want to give out.
Mm-hmm.
So is it very dangerous? Yes, absolutely.
And how much of that information through AI have they already sectored off as theirs? The dangerous thing about a lot of people may be looking to start their businesses and utilize AI, but you understand if that company now holds rights to everything you may have done
Intellectual property
on there. Exactly.
Yeah, you technically, your situation that you're going through, your ideas, your problems, whatever it is, they now own that.
Yep. They're just collecting all this information, all this creation, and then they can immediately say you have no rights and no ownership to this. It's under us.
Which I find funny because I remember working for a tech juggernaut. Fuck it, I'll tell you, PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
Worked for PayPal for 10 years. When I first started, I actually had to sign an agreement for intellectual property. Meaning, if I came up with any ideas and I came up with anything that, like, let's say just a random invention or an idea that could improve that company, because I work for them, they own it. They don't have to do anything for me.
Okay.
So I feel like that right there.
It's scary. It's scary.
It is.
And it's getting integrated, not just in the public eye, it's getting integrated in companies. I was just talking with a mother not too long ago. She told me they integrated an AI into her company that could also do the same thing, right? If they don't add those, prerequisites company to the AI before we add this on, who's the intellectual property going to belong to at the end of the day? It's just going to be out there. Your information is going to be out there. Your ideas, your creativity. They can own your creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. And like people need to understand, like, that's yours.
Right.
That's yours. So it's almost like you need to create these things in the secret of your own home, go patent it, and then bring something out. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's definitely the route that people need to take, period, anyway. But it's like, damn, I can't even talk about things.
Nope.
Otherwise, they're gonna go and do whatever they got to do, and they're gonna own my idea.
But is there opportunity for you guys to do that? Yes. I mean, a lot of I'm taking myself NVIDIA classes, and they're free AI classes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should take these. You should learn these things so you can keep your intellectual property to you.
So the other thing is this. Just thinking about this. Here, I didn't sign an intellectual property thing with you, so let's talk about an idea. Is it far-fetched to think that, let's say you're having one of these individual therapy sessions, right, with Gemini, because they literally say on the commercial, talk to Gemini, right? You can have the full-blown, like, it literally tells you on the commercial, you're there, it's there to have a conversation with. Do you think, or like I said, is this far-fetched to think that that stuff, that information is being used to create further AI based upon human emotion specifically?
100%. 100%.
Kind of like what movie?
iRobot?
Oh,
Right. I have feelings and emotions now, right? I've got a
Right.
heart. I can think, I can feel. Things hurt me, words hurt me. You're gonna run into that.
yes. That's what I work. And at that point, so now you speak from a jobs perspective. Now you really don't need a customer service person on the end, because as soon as you start getting riled up from an upset perspective, that AI is going to understand what you're doing and actually react to it in a correct
Right.
way. Right.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, to understand human emotion, like, I think that that is definitely a possibility. And
But
that's
then
what is
you
so
run into
scary about it.
right. You run into the problem like iRobot of it now questioning its own feelings and emotions, and that upset me, and so I retaliated in this way. Or in the iRobot's case, right, it was somebody else who was pulling the strings of making that happen, and it feel that way or whatever. But it's such a dangerous line to be stepping on and be walking on right now, and it will be a problem down the road. We may not experience in our generation, depending on how fast things go, but it will come a time where we'll have to worry about that. And the more people divulge their therapy sessions into this AI and into these AI, it will process that information.
And that's the scary part of it. The one thing that we can own, our own feelings and our own thoughts, are not going to be owned anymore.
Right. It's very important we come together, keep human interaction at a peak, keep it high on the list.
So then, speaking from the devil's advocate side, right? I'm not speaking in this side because of the fact that I agree with it or this is where I'm at, because, well, I'll say it in a second, but you are taking free classes on AI,
Mhm.
right? You're actually turning around and embracing this thing, right?
Right.
Understanding the risks, but embracing it to understand it so you can possibly use it to your benefit, whether it's personal or whether it's business wise, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm one of those that, like, because I understood how Facebook worked and the benefits on the other side, I was one that didn't open a Facebook until 2022.
Wow.
I refused. I watched this show that was talking about Facebook being created, how much it was worth, how much information they get, and it's like, holy shit. So they put it in perspective. When the guy that was narrating, he asked the question, he said, based upon what Facebook does revenue wise, they could pay everybody in the world $100. Everybody in the world $100.
Wow.
Do you find that your information is more valuable than that $100? If so, they said, don't use Facebook. And I thought about that for a second, and I was like, holy shit, that's what you're doing. But it's a double-edged sword, because I needed it for my business, right? So you don't necessarily see me on Facebook doing a lot. I'll post every now and then. I'll do a lot for my business,
Mhm.
but I'm not sitting there giving all my information, putting my credit card information and anything like that, like for purchasing ads, or no. I'm using it for high level basics, right? So I guess for those, like, what I'm getting to is, with your position on embracing it, when you hear ignorance is bliss, right? How do you feel towards those that are like that towards AI?
Well, here's the extremes of it, right? Do we go into a place where it's like, all right, say you don't embrace AI, where would most people then migrate who aren't going to embrace that? They're going to go do farmland, right? They're going to go out and build their own communities in other places that don't utilize these technologies, right? And to try to keep things the way they are, right? Throughout that. But it's inevitable, because even if it's your neighboring city, they have AI. If things go wrong with AI in that neighboring city, it'll bleed out. I mean, they're going to explore out into other areas. It's almost unavoidable. But if you can learn to understand, right? If you can educate yourself on AI, you can what? I can dismantle, I can do something, on the back end to say I understand what's happening, and maybe from a technological perspective, you have a certain level of control there. But the best thing, not knowing anything isn't going to benefit you. Not knowing the inter workings of AI will not benefit you. I think it's very crucial. No different than the big technology boom from the '90s with computers and stuff. It was better for you to understand it, because now as we progress more and more, it's like all your phones can't get who has a house phone, right? You've had to eventually get some type of cell phone service, right?
Yeah.
You can't even get on the phone and talk to someone directly. You're going through automated lines. So in some way, everyone has to adjust, and comes with life, though. Life's ever changing. That's the guaranteed constant, is change. So you have to continue to grow. You have to continue to learn how the next thing works. Even if you don't want to have an AI in your home, you should know how it works.
Right. I completely agree. Just like we say, you don't have to trade, but learn how to read these things, right?
Exactly.
So I completely agree. And really, to sum all that up, what is that called? It's called evolution, right?
Yep.
It's evolution of, specifically in this case, technology, right? So technology is evolving, and we've seen it over the span of, my whole lifetime. When
Right.
you get
It's lack of
people talking
information
about
while people
buying
can't
cars,
even.
this, that, and the other.
Yeah, it's lack of information. Even like you said, not knowing the charts. Not knowing the charts has caused millions of people to not be able to capitalize on the current economy.
Right.
The last 5 years, people have been able to make millions of dollars off of understanding charts, understanding crypto, digital assets, understanding business and stuff in ways that aren't taught in schools. So you have to keep learning. You have to go out here and make the effort to protect yourself, to put
Right.
yourself in a better position. Because if I get to the point where, we're already there now, where I'm seeing people, whether it's veterans or whether it's people with jobs in different places, they get laid off and don't have a backup plan or haven't been able to put up enough money. But had they known what was going on the last 5, 10 years, they could have positioned themselves for this day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely. I mean,
same thing for me. I'm going to go learn how the AI works. So when the day comes where it's like, hey, AI is doing this, that, and the third, I put the time in 5 years ago, 10 years ago to learn something where I can may have other options, right? I could flip.
you're already 10 years of steps ahead everybody else that doesn't decide,
in that.
So I mean,
Exactly. Even
I'll
quantum.
claim it all the time. I'll claim it all the time. If I didn't know these charts the way that I do, I would have never sold my house when I did.
Right.
And now, look, if I would have waited until now, like, it's funny because I can speak to both sides of that spectrum. I sold my house understanding when I was selling it and how I was selling it, right? Did I know what was going to happen after that? No, I'll be honest. It was literally like a decision that Venus and I had within a week, right? We had a conversation about it. I was like, hey, what do you think about selling the house? Right now, I said the demand for homes is going up and people are moving here, spending top dollar. I was like, why don't we try and maximize our opportunity? Because it's not going to last forever, right? So understanding everything that was going on at that time and taking advantage of it, we did it. And I profited. I'm not going to lie, I profited a shit ton of money,
That sets you up for the next thing, though, right? That puts you in position.
Food truck comes in for the most part, right? Everything that was being done with that.
Right.
So
then to be half broke.
The other side of that spectrum is that in the same type of conversation, so speaking with my little brother, he's like, look, I want to build my own food truck, this, that, and the other. So he was like, I don't know if I can get approved for a loan, this, that, and the other. So I was telling him, I said, bro, right now is a perfect time to sell your house if that's the case. Sell it. You don't even need to do anything to it. Sell it, and you'll get top dollar for it, right? Like, you can write your own check for the most part. He didn't.
Hmm.
Now 2025. He asked me about it the other day. Well, I want to say the other day. We talked about this like maybe about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And his house is barely over, as far as like what he could sell it for, barely over what it was done before. Like when he bought it.
Really?
Yeah, it's already lost probably $100,000 plus in what he could have made.
Value. Wow.
Like, to put those things in perspective, I'm not doing this for flexing reasons or anything like that. But when I sold my house, my profit alone was almost $250,000. Where now he's sitting here and he can walk away with probably about 25,000 when it probably could have been 175.
Wow. Wow. That's the important, man. That's the important thing of having this type of information, knowing what you're looking at. Because timing, it's all timing. I mean, now I'm not saying either though that he's stuck at that. He'd have to stay in it till it goes back up again, right? Which, as we know how the housing market works from that aspect. But what if he didn't want to do that, right? What if I wanted to come out of this situation earlier than having to wait another 5 or 10 years for the market to rally back up in a place for me to sell it? I'm stuck in it, right? It's ironclad.
Well, let's be honest. We are probably never going to see what happened in 2020 again. Never. I don't care. Even if another pandemic comes out, it's not going to happen the same way. None of it's going to happen the same way. You'll see the markets tank, of course. You'll definitely see the markets tank. But for some reason, houses became a huge, huge thing, right? And I don't think that you're going to see the situation happen again. So that was a once in a lifetime type situation. If you missed out then and you're waiting on the market to completely change, you're probably waiting on another 8 to 10 years. Otherwise, you're just going to have to settle for what you can get for it. Like, there's not right now. It will always flow into a seller strength and then a buyer strength, right? And what does that mean? Seller strength is less inventory, right? Less people selling their homes, where sellers can say, oh, well, you know what? If you don't want to buy this house for this price, look around the neighborhood and see what you can find. And you can't find anything. That's called supply and demand. Less supply, higher demand equals higher prices. We know that, right? Right now, we're sitting into the buyer's market where there's an influx of inventory and nobody wants to buy them because they're like, hey, the more they get added, the more inventory, guess what? The further the prices come down. So, which brings me into, it's funny that this just segued in perfectly. Oh my God. We had that, you sent me that link to that article about the Fed rates, right? The other thing is that people now with a lot of inventory in homes, they don't feel rushed to buy a home because interest rates, and that's probably what caused the homes in 2020 to spike, was specifically interest rates, right? So anybody who was on the fence thinking of it, no pun intended, they had to go and buy a house because of the fact interest rates were skyrocketing at an enormous rate. So right now, the big wait is, what is Powell going to do? Is Powell going to drop rates or not? Like, there's enough inventory out there for buyers to say, I'm not going to buy now, and I'm just going to wait till Powell lowers the rates, because not only am I going to get the house at a lower price, but I'm also going to get my loan at a lower rate. That's how much it is a buyer's market right now. And it's only getting stronger. That part is only getting stronger. We're not going to see a seller's market for probably for quite some time, at least maybe till 2030. I would assume. But as far as interest rate goes, there's things that are going on with that. The article read that the Fed is looking to lower rates on the next rate cut session by 0.5%, 50 basis points, 50 points. I don't think that happens. If it does, hey, good for the people. But I'll be the first one to tell you, Jerome Powell doesn't like Donald Trump. So what happens? How do individuals that don't like Donald Trump, what do they try and do? They try to get him to look bad. How much more worse can you make him try to look than if the interest rates aren't being lowered, even though inflation is coming down? Because people aren't necessarily thinking about this, they're going to blame him and not Powell. Unless you're in this seat, right, watching these things, to the average individual, I would challenge anybody who watches this and say you could ask that you could do this too. It'd be weird, but just when you're in the cashier's checkout line buying something, groceries, whatever it is, ask that person if they know who Jerome Powell is. They're probably going to say no. And then when you're like the first thing that should come to mind with Jerome Powell is the Fed. But you ask somebody and be like, yo, do you know who Jerome Powell is? They're going to look at you like, no, I don't know Jerome Powell. They might when you say, oh, the head of the Fed. Oh, yeah, I read something on him. But regardless, you ask me if I know who Jerome Powell is, I'm going to tell you with no hesitation. I'm not going to say I don't know who he is. I'm going to say, no, the only one that I know is the one that's the head of the Fed.
Right.
Because I have that information. I understand that. So another way to divide people and also throw more hate towards Trump is let's not lower interest rates. So there's that. There's the emotional standpoint with that.
Mm-hmm.
From the actual economic data, jobs are going to start coming down even more for the time being. We're going to see because of the tariffs, right? As companies have to start paying out more, like in this case, let's say Walmart, right? Walmart is a juggernaut across this country. When they have to pay more for their imports because of these things, they're going to have to start laying people off. Budget cuts, somewhere, shape, or form. I got to have product in the store. It's either I have a ton of people that I'm paying with no shoppers because I don't have anything on the shelves, or I have a ton of things on the shelves, but I have less workers, which have to work harder. This is what liberals do not like. That's the hard part until it gets to the point where these companies will see the profit and be able to rehire these individuals. Once that happens, whole different story. But that it takes time, right? It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So with the job market being so fairly weak right now, that's why Jerome Powell, again, from that standpoint, he doesn't want to lower the interest rates. He needs to keep them where they're at. So it would help if he lowered the interest rates just in general. But when you're talking about people being laid off, you don't want people to then be, oh, I can go get a home for this percentage while I'm trying to get it. No, absolutely not. No, I don't want you to put yourself into that position. So from a responsible position, I don't see them lowering the rates. And if they do, I don't see 50 basis points. I see 25 at the most, 10 likely, 10 basis points. So we might go from 4.5 to 4.4. But to go from 4.5 to 4.0, no, that was a huge jump when it went up during COVID. That would be a huge drop. And right now, CPI is starting to come down a little bit. So your inflation numbers are starting to come down a little bit. Still not where it needs to be. So guess what? At that point, it's not a good idea to lower interest rates, jobs, housing, etc. Like people not buying, it doesn't make any sense to lower those rates. Now, once it does, oh my God, the floodgates are going to open up. But I believe that we probably won't see one for maybe Q4 if we don't see one now. But I'm not betting that there is going to be one. I mean, we'll see what happens on the chart. You can always see when the charts are coming up towards that, what the structure looks like. You know, if we need a bullish wick on a bearish channel, we'll lower rates. Okay, cool. It goes up. Oh, but this is why when they go into the actual conference as to why they give that information to say why we're lowering, raising, or not changing. That's where all the move comes. The announcement is just an entry. So it's coming up, or we're lowering interest rates. Cool. But you're in a bearish channel. let that thing go up, immediately sell, and then watch it come down because of what Powell says.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't necessarily see, especially if we end up in war. I don't see interest rates coming down.
Right. Right. No, man, it's as always, again, guys, I say this all the time, it's interesting times, my guys. We're in a hell of a time as a society, as a nation, as a world, guys. But it's now time more than any to just always pay attention. Always pay attention to what's going on. Follow the money, guys. It's gonna be a lot. But I think more and more people, as we do things like this, we educate, put people on what's going on in these different factors. If somebody's listening, you can position yourself appropriately, whether we do end up in war or not in a war. But as far as I would be concerned, over the next, what we got, a week or two left of the month, I would scalp some great trade setups, right? Um, I would be very careful with long-term opportunities because things are shifting back and forth, like we've seen today, right? Things look bad on the horizon, then the day happens and it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be, and if not, it even turned out better for the situation, especially on indices. So that's going to turn around and be the same with the stock market. So just pay attention, take things a day at a time, right? We were talking about swing trading earlier. Now, if I would have tried to swing a bull run on gold and then it dropped. So it was like, guys, take it a day at a time, a trade at a time.
Are you ready to turn your network into a source of passive income while empowering others to achieve financial success? Welcome to the ITU referral program, where you can earn monthly residuals simply by sharing the power of trading education. Here's how it works. Refer aspiring traders to Independent Trading University, earn 20% of their enrollment fee when they sign up, keep earning every single month they remain enrolled, and to top it off, enjoy a special bonus at the end of each month. Let's break it down. If you refer just 20 students, earning 20% per enrollment, you could be making $200 plus a month in residual income. Refer 40 students? That's $400 plus per month. And it only keeps growing from there. At the end of each month, receive a bonus at the end of the month. Even when enrollment price go up, you're not just earning, you're making an impact. By introducing others to ITU, you're helping them unlock financial freedom through trading while securing your own stream of income.
Yeah, and with the volatility, you're going to see bullish moves be equated by bearish moves, and bearish moves equated by bullish moves. Whatever's being given out is going to be taken back. Right. So unless you can use the higher time frame to see any forms of breakouts, specifically like what we're seeing on gold for the buy, if I didn't see that on the 4 hour and above, then I probably wouldn't be so confident in the buy that I'm going to be getting into here probably in about 4 or 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But because I'm as confident as I am in it, I'm like, hey, market open, let's go. I've got my stop loss for a reason, right?
Yep.
So I was just trying to position everything that I'm seeing here right now for where is this going to go to? Because yeah, like you said, gold is coming back, and it almost, if I wouldn't have closed out my buy earlier this morning, I closed it out at the top. I left a little bit of money on the table. So like if I'm looking at the 1 hour, I left one candle. Which actually opened up with a drop. It opened up with a bearish move, but it closed as a bullish. I don't want to necessarily say doji, but it's up there. I closed on the actual. In fact, you know what? Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So you see, this is where I had entered, was down here. Took it up. Remember, I just said about the volatility. It dropped and took everything and put me into the red, but then I got everything back. And that trade was beautiful because it followed the necessary move. Like the pattern was crazy. But I closed out at the tip of this one right here, the tip of this candle right here on the 1 hour. I let this one go, watching it to become a possible doji. This is the one I lost out on. But what did I lose out on in profit? I lost out on this right here. Oh, damn it. Just that amount of profit. So that amount of profit with the 5 contracts that I had on there was probably $100. Let's just say it's $100 on 5 contracts. So I closed out my trade at $1,300 right here. I would have been at possibly $1,400 here. Why am I going to sit there and hold that the whole time, seeing that everything needed to start coming back down for a pullback? So I closed that out completely, took that profit. Now where I wanted to sell was literally right here. It would have been 0 drawdown, but look where we're going for the pullback. This is dangerous though, guys. When you're trading actual pullbacks, it's dangerous, because if I were to sit here and take the fib, right now, for me, this is my impulse move. This is my pullback, and then it starts coming up here. So this is a pattern in itself. As we've talked about, rising wedges multiple times, right? Needs to come back down, retest at least 50%, but it's at least 50%. If I would have actually got into a sell, my take profit was literally right here. I would have missed out on even more, right? But I still would have profited $800 off that, off the 5, or yeah, I think it was like, man, I think I raised it to 10. It was like $800. It was a small move, you know, but from here to here,
yeah, good profit.
I could have done that. But it is dangerous, because you might see, instead of going off of the 50, which is normal, I had this set at the 38.2 on the fib, because you can see consistent rejection off of the 38.2, whether it's gold or indices. So you got to understand those levels. This is what we talk about, learning your pairs. So like, if I wouldn't have known that 38.2 is a strict level for some of these volatile pairs, I might not have, you know, I might have ended up holding, which would have profited me even more. But at the same time, what happens if it decides that, okay, I'm going to reject and can just create a higher low? I would have been asked out. So now I'm waiting for the overall touch of what would be this portion of a channel, right? I feel like this is kind of what we're looking at right now.
Yep.
Right? And it's funny, you see how they crisscross. Here's your falling wedge. Impulse down. Falling wedge. Now we're coming up. Just like this falling wedge, like I said, 50%. I'm being conservative. And if I wanted to see where this needed to go for 50%, it's right here. I should be able to buy this all the way up to the 50%. I'm not doing that. My take profit is going to be at what would be considered the 0%, because it is the end of the impulse move. I'm only taking it to the beginning of, or the ending of the impulse move, which is a support. That's being safe. But my entry down is going to be down here at the higher low that's going to be created from what would be the bearish channel turning into the bullish one. And then what do we end up creating? We end up creating something that could be right?
Yeah.
Or at least to right here, because what we're seeing on the higher time frame when every rejection is happening. Oh, damn it. Come on now. There we go. All-time possible highs. This could actually go all the way up to here. Because you see, this is the channel that we're making right now, right? Unless it wants to break out, but we'll see. Either way, I'm only taking it to that previous support. I'll react after that. I'm cool with that. If I were to do just to that from this entry right now, if I were to get in, I'm not getting in now because it's the end of the day. But if I were to get in and take it all the way up, guess what? That's going to be about a $2,400 trade if I just stick with the 5 contracts I've been using as a conservative. I can have up to 27 contracts. If I did 27 contracts and I took that move all the way up there, you guys wouldn't see me again. I'd be done. But that's not the case. I'm only looking to grow my account a certain amount per day. Yeah, that's part of the trading plan then. But I do still feel like we still have a little bit of a bearish move because even on the 15, we broke the 50 coming back down. I'm finding that the 50 level on the RSI is very, very important. This is already at the bottom, so we're going to end up in the oversold zone. This is going to end up coming back down probably a little more. Look, even the 30 broke the 50.
Might get open to the downside, I would think. And
I think it's going to open to the downside. But in this case, we might only see, because this is kind of a range on the 30, right? It might just go to there.
Yeah.
If it goes to there and goes up, I'll go look at the 5 minute, the 15 and the 5. This could be at the bottom retesting the oversold zone. The 5 minute, it could be extremely oversold, even below the 20. And by that time, you're really looking for buys now.
Oh, yeah. Hit the exchange. We're going to be in there. We're going to be in there ready.
Yeah. Damn, that was such a beautiful move. Oh, my God. But if I were to even, like I said before, if I measure this right now, let me get rid of this. Now it's retesting the, what is it, the 61.8.
Yeah.
That's my 61.8 right here. So,
with even room to smack that 786, even I think there'll be room to get close to that 786, and then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I believe that I'll end up seeing it hit the support line that I have right here, which is the beginning of the next channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there on, you just buy up.
Yeah.
So if I were to create a zone for that, that would probably be the zone that I buy in.
You might have to get a different color. I can barely.
Yeah, I'm going to change the color for it right now.
But I see where you're aiming at.
Boom. See the hot pink? Let's remove that. That zone itself. Somewhere within here, that's where I'm buying. Usually what I like to do as well is I'll take it from in the zone. I don't care about where all these actually touch unless it's horizontal or vertical. But when I'm sitting here in a diagonal format for a channel, I'll take it to 50%. So wherever this lands, that's where I'm looking to buy.
Right, you guys know we're going to be ready for that move tonight. You already know.
Yes, sir.
But hey, once again, Mike, a wonderful talk today. I think we hit a lot of hot topics that are going to help a lot of people out here, whether you're a trader, not a trader, staying informed. That's always our objective. So please stay in tune. Drop a comment below. How do you feel, man? What are your thoughts on this process? What are your plans? What are you thinking about doing, in the midst of all these trials and tribulations going on around us? Make us aware. Let's create the conversation. Let's create the communication. Because it's all about helping each other out. It's all about informing each other and keeping ideas of what to do in these matters. So please comment below, like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you made it to the end of this, thanks again for watching. Appreciate everybody coming through and keeping up with the podcast. We're here to help in every way we possibly can. Mike, again, thank you for your time, my brother.
Anytime. I love it because this is a good thing for everybody to at least see a different side. You might think that some things that I say are coming out the left side of my neck, but at the same time, a lot of things that I've said have come to fruition. So as long as I can get people thinking, that's the whole goal. Get you thinking, think for yourself independently.
That's right.
And
Right.
if that's the case, I've done my job.
That's right. Hey, look, we believe in an independent future for everybody. So stay in tune, stay informed. If you are already trading with us, can't wait to see you guys in tonight's chart session. We will be ready to take advantage of that gold trade. I'm glad you gave a little free game out. So if you are out there and you're a trader, hey, keep an eye on what's going on. I hope that our chart update helps you guys. For the rest of you all, I'll see you tonight, students. I'll see these charts. Man, we're going to get it this week and close this month strong.
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. Later.
Peace.